Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Radio Entrepreneurs, and we are streaming more stories than ever before because the economy has changed. I don't think anybody thinks that it's going back to the old ways. We're all doing business in new ways and trying to figure out new ways to do business. Our next guest is Dr. Jason Cox, CTO of AFFOA. Was I supposed to pronounce it or spell it?
Either way, we call it AFFOA, but the acronym for Advanced Functional Fabrics of America.
Wow. So tell us about AFFOA.
Absolutely. So there's the pre-COVID AFFOA, and then obviously there's the new normal AFFOA. So Let me start with the pre-COVID AFFOA. So we are a unique entity. We're a nonprofit. That's a public-private partnership focused on creating a new domestic revolution in textile manufacturing. So put simply, we're part of a larger consortium of entities called Manufacturing USA. And these are institutes that the government stood up about 6 years ago to try to bring innovation back to manufacturing. There's multiple institutes focused on different areas. We're focused on textiles. And so we have about 120 members in our network that span the gap from fiber and fabric producers all the way to consumer-facing brands like New Balance and others here that are local. And so what we try to do is we try to bring new technology to bear within the space of fabrics. Specifically, just to give your viewers an idea, we try to take semiconductor technology and actually weave it and knit it into fabric. So being able, I don't know if you can see this very well, there's some LEDs here. So these are actually LEDs that are integrated directly into fibers and yarns that can be knitted or woven. We like to show LEDs because you can see them, but obviously we can put more complex devices into those fibers that allow you to do things like monitor one's physiological status, or to be able to communicate information, or to even be able to do computation on fabrics. So I'll stop there. That's quite a bit of information.
Well, how did you get into this field? It's really quite unusual and unusual for us.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think everyone in this space has probably had a different journey. In my case, my background is actually in materials chemistry. And when I got out of grad school, I did work in the technical textiles area. And so when the AFFOA opportunity came up, it only made sense to kind of be able to fuse together some of this interesting chemistry and new semiconductor technology into things like fabrics. And fabrics to me are super interesting because unlike most forms of technology, fabrics are everywhere. They're ubiquitous. I mean, of course, you're wearing them, but they're in your home, they're in composites, they're in aerospace. I mean, literally, they're everywhere. And so it's just a great playground to be able to do innovation.
Wow. And again, your background, how did you get into this?
Yeah, so I actually had a friend of mine from grad school who started out at AFFOA, and then she told me about what AFFOA was doing and actually recruited me into it. I was super interested in that. Beforehand, I actually worked both in energy and then before that in technical textiles. And so I've been in a few different industries in my career.
Interesting. How many people are in the organization and what's your geography?
Sure. So our headquarters is located in Cambridge, Mass. So we're not too far away from MIT. We have about 33 people on staff here, most of which have technical backgrounds, kind of spanning the gap from physics and material science all the way over to textile design. It's a very interesting facility because we've got things like a clean room that you'd expect to see at, a semiconductor manufacturing operation, but we also have full-scale knitting, and weaving machines here as well. So very interesting mix of technologies. We also have 3 FDCs, Fabric Discovery Centers. So these are really satellite centers that are also part of our network, one of which operates at Lincoln Laboratories to work on the military side of these applications. And then we have another location at UMass Lowell that try to leverage, the various plastics processing capabilities that UMass Lowell has. And then another location at Drexel University, which is really our center of excellence in knitting technology. So we're a little bit of a distributed enterprise.
Well, that's interesting. And do you see your world changing a lot in the next year or so as a result of what's been going on?
So it absolutely changed for us as soon as COVID started. I think, as I mentioned earlier, we were very focused on doing technology integration into fabrics. And so we were working in that space. And then COVID happened, and of course, I think you and probably all your viewers here are aware that there was a bit of a crisis when it comes to PPE, especially to support our healthcare providers. Most of which was kind of focused around these little guys here, our respiratory PPE. And so I think the country got a pretty big wake-up call when that happened, when it comes to the secureness of our supply chains, right? Most of these materials are actually made overseas, and so there was a bit of a crunch there. The other part of it was a lot of masks were flowing into the U.S. From foreign producers, and it turns out that those masks don't perform the way that they're purported to perform. So what AFFOA did when the crisis started, we did multiple things in concert with the Massachusetts Emergency Response Team, but we actually stood up a distributed testing facility using the same type of tests that NIOSH would use to rate the performance of your mask. Put simply, to make sure your mask is going to stop, coronavirus from getting into your lungs. And we've screened many, many hundreds of masks. And it turns out that, as I mentioned before, a lot of the masks that are coming into the market here in the US simply just don't confer the level of protection that the consumer thinks they ought to. And so we've worked with NEMA, as well as folks in Rhode Island and in industry to actually screen masks, figure out which ones make the most sense, and help those get into the hands of healthcare workers. We were also fortunate at the very beginning of the crisis to actually source about 45,000 N95 respirators from a domestic producer called Alpha Protech, and we were able to actually donate and distribute many of those masks to local hospitals here in the Commonwealth.
Wow.
So that was a big change for us.
Well, we were speaking with Dr. Jason Cox, CTO of AFFOA. Jason, if someone is looking and is interested in AFFOA, could you please tell us how to connect with you and the organization?
Yeah, absolutely. So the easiest way to do this is to go online. So go.affoa, AFFOA.org. You can just Google AFFOA. You'll get to our homepage one way or the other. And there you can find all the necessary contact information for folks like myself, as well as our business development experts that we have here as well.
Great. Thanks for being on the show. We hope you come back as you have more innovations. Remind everybody, this is Radio Entrepreneurs, and we've been speaking with Dr. Jason Cox, CTO of AFFOA. I like that, AFFOA. Jason, take care, and we look forward to speaking to you again in the future.
You as well, Jeffrey. Thank you very much.
Remind everybody, this is Radio Entrepreneurs. We'll be right back after this short break.